there are always push and pull factors when a decision of this nature would occur. There are things that are happening in your current situation you're not proud of, that you're not excited about, that will lead you to, explore. Go beyond where you are and look for what you can consider a better alternative. And then when you look out there, there are also things that you're going to see that are pull factors that will draw you to where you're headed to, and that ultimately land you to a decision point. I am at peace with the decision I've taken because of a number of these compounding issues. And let's start with the push factors. I see a Labour Party where I'm not so proud of the future. I started asking myself, where are we headed to? On one hand, there are litigation issues around the leadership, chairmanship. Up to today, there's a case in the Supreme Court, and there are a multiplicity of other cases that we don't even know about. And either Abure wins or loses, there are implications that I'm not totally proud of. And when I actually think about what even originated this whole recent issues, beyond the other issues about Apapa, Arabambi, and co, on the side of the Abure, was the national convention that took place in Anambra State. I consider that process very flawed. Typically, you start the national convention from the ward level, then local government, then state, then national. But it was done upside down, and there are implications. A lot of the obedience wanted to get into the party through the right process. And I'm not saying we must change the leadership, but let the leadership go through the right process. I've always emphasized on right process. And so if you are introducing wrong process, then I am not going to be party to keeping. Because when people use the word loyalty, they miss the point. Loyalty is not usually to individuals. Loyalty is to values, certain things that you hold dear. Correct. So if the individual exhibits certain value at variance with what I hold dear, and I continue to follow, I may leave the individual, but I'm still consistent with those values. So in the case of Labour Party, beyond the National Convention, which was flawed, is also another event that took place in Anambra State Congress, where they practically decimated the party. And I raised alarm. I complained to Abure himself, to our national leader, Peter Obi, to the governor of Abia State, and whoever that cared to listen. We are destroying Labour Party in Anambra State. When you look at these issues, then consider the huge defections, people losing faith in Labour Party, moving away to other parties. And now take record of all the elections we've lost. Almost all the states, not just that we lost, abysmal loss, total failure. So I said to myself, if really Anambra is something I'm passionate about, if I want to rescue my people, under what platform? So I should just, in the name of loyalty, and then people continue to suffer? No. The definition of loyalty I've spoken about. So there was a real consciousness around this conversation. And I engaged with a lot of people, a lot of institutions. Here is the situation with Labour Party. What do we do next?
And did you engage with Peter Obi?
Oh, many times, certainly.
What was his reaction? How did he take the fact that his most trusted, one of his most trusted deputies was effectively deserted?
I come to that.
Right.
I come to that. The point here, because there's need for a lot of people who are on the social media to understand really the issues, is this not just emotion? There's a bit of emotion, but we've also got to bring logic and strategy and reasonableness into the conversation. So I ask a lot of people, and I also ask somebody like you, if you wanted Valentine Ozigbo to be the governor of Anambra State and is no longer going to be Labour Party, where else? Give me an answer. I've asked everybody who cared to listen, give me an answer. I'm going to fight an incumbent who we believe is not doing well. And truly, I can talk about Soludo forever because it's actually disappointing the Anambra. So if we wanted to change Soludo, which other party, if it's not Labour Party? And I'm challenging everybody listening to me today. Which other party? Is it PDP? And they said, no, it's not PDP. They're even dragging who is the national secretary. All of those issues, if you come to Anambra State, they also filled with other litigation issues. So PDP wasn't going to be an option. So is it that we used APC or some other smaller party, which, yeah, it's easier to even win primary in those other parties and move on. However, to be able to contend with an incumbent governor, you needed to also be very strategic. Now, these are reasons, thinking outside of the box, moving away from Labour Party arose. Now, what pulled me into APC? Beyond being a large party with a lot of structure and following, I have never been in doubt that I will be able to defeat Soludo, even if I take any party, because of the rising momentum that we've garnered, the grassroots base that we have. And yeah, like I said to you, a lot of people are not quite comfortable with this nature and style of governance. And so, but there's also need to have a structure that can enable you protect the win when it does happen. Because here we are, again an incumbent. If it was a neutral ground, it's okay. If you try to run under a smaller party, you're going to spend a lot of resources which you may not even have, and the probability of success will be very low.
Right.
And so APC needed also somebody like me who would not only bring the base of support and win on ground. There's also something I found fascinating, which is if we have APC and the leadership at the national level, federal level, and I care about the Kanambra Chabu mantra. I have a lot of ideas what I want to really unfold. I want to build a better synergy. I want to be able to connect to the grid. I want to be able to make this a proper win-win for Anambra people. And the battle about future elections, let's deal with the imminent right now. Let's get into the office. And guess what? In my conclusion, I started seeing Labour as worse than APC and PDP combined because of the nature of the issues there. Okay. And therefore, here's my last point here. If I get into APC and win and become governor of Anambra under APC, I don't see the concern people raise about APC changing me. I would rather inspire change from within.
Right. Okay.
To get people
right
to actually now begin to appreciate value and love for the party.
You've made a lot of points there, but I wanted to give you that chance to really explain your position, and thank you for being quite clear and lucid, as you usually are. We're going to come to your chances of actually, first of all, picking the ticket of the APC in a moment, but just to get past that point that a lot of obedience and all the rest of them have been making. Many of them say that you are a political opportunist who tried to ride on the coattails of Peter Obi to the Anambra State governorship. I mean, he was a homeboy, and a lot of people suggest that he actually sponsored you, or at least he was one of your sponsors under the PDP to run for governor. And now that you've failed and he failed at the national level, you're seeking opportunity from the ruling.
So let me clarify certain things. First is I took a decision to go into politics and run for governorship of Anambra State. By the grace of God, out of 15 of us who wanted to be candidates of PDP in 2021, I was privileged to emerge winner. And by this time that I became candidate of PDP, I can take it to the bank that I received 0 penny from Peter Obi. So he didn't sponsor me into PDP. Let's the point be clear. Now, did he support me for the main election? Yes, he did, and I'm very grateful and thankful to God for that. And my respect for Peter Obi hasn't diminished.
Right.
My relationship with him is still very civil, so there is no personal issue. And this is not just about Peter Obi and Valentine. That's not the conversation. The conversation about the Anambra people. I took a deliberate decision. I can count up to 10 times we had a conversation around Anambra. In fact, a few weeks before the last travel I made to the UK, I met with him and I told him I am uncomfortable with Labour Party and it's not likely I'm going to use Labour Party to run. So he's clear, one-on-one.
What was his reaction?
Well, we debated it. We debated it. He felt the issues could be resolved. I said, you are running for election in 2027. Mine is this year. So I don't have the time. So if I had 2027 I could be patient.
But was this an acrimonious? Have you both of you now fallen out?
Not at all. Not at all.
Right.
Not at all. Not at all. If you know me, I can't have. I respect my elders.
Well, it doesn't have to be you. It could be from him as well.
See, it takes two. If you are decent and honorable enough to use right words, you can't get any reaction that could be acrimonious. So, but the point I'm making here is that I engaged, I reached out, and I'm thankful for his support. But we needed to take a decision. And guess what? Let me also say this to a lot of people. A lot of the obedience who were really, really upset were upset because they didn't hear from me. I've had to engage on Twitter, Zoom meetings with a lot of them. I've not heard of anybody that I've spoken to that understood my reason that is not supporting me today.
Well, to be fair to you, I followed one of your recent Zoom meetings. You had quite a lot of people in it, and to be entirely fair, you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't know who the people are. They could well be your supporters who were simply coming on, but they said they were Anambra people, and all of them were very supportive of you. But let me ask you this. How politically delicate are things for you now? I mean, you've left the Labour Party under a storm of criticism, let's be honest, and outrage. You've crossed over to the APC, where you're not exactly necessarily welcomed as a great friend of the party, given how critical you've been of them. I mean, it sounds like this is a definitively politically delicate moment for you. I mean, how good a chance do you stand in those circumstances of becoming the APC governorship candidate in Anambra State?
Thank you. Before I go to that question, let me have just a last shot on this, on the last conversation.
Briefly, because the time is galloping ahead.
To say to you that for a lot of people who are still out there criticizing my decision, it's simply because they haven't heard from me. For every single person who's heard, I can tell you they are either sympathetic or very supportive to my decision. And so if you're out there listening to me, don't worry. When we engage, I bet you're going to jump the fray and say, you know what, Valentine, you took the best decision you could ever imagine. Because again, it's not about me personally.